If you ever spent any time in the Singapore rabbit groups, you have seen the question come up. Someone asks whether their bunny needs the RHDV vaccine, and within minutes there are 40 replies, half of them confident and contradicting each other. Someone says it is essential, someone else says do not bother, someone shares a scary article from overseas, and a new owner is left more confused than when they started. It is one of those topics that makes new owners genuinely anxious because the disease sounds terrifying and the answers online feel like a mess. So today let us slow it right down and talk through it calmly, like two owners chatting over a bag of hay, and by the end you will at least know what you are actually deciding about. I'm a rabbit owner, not a vet. Everything here is me sharing what I have read and what I have learned asking the right people, the same stuff that gets asked in our local groups at odd hours. It is not medical advice, and the whole point of this video is actually the opposite of giving you a verdict. The real answer to whether your rabbit needs this vaccine lives with a rabbit-savvy vet, not with me and not with a comment thread. What I can do is help you understand the question well enough to have a good conversation with that vet. Here is the plan. First, what RHDV actually is and why people are scared of it. Then, why this question keeps coming up specifically in Singapore. Then, where the vaccine sits here right now, because that part is genuinely different from other countries. Then, how owners go about accessing it, the simple biosecurity steps you can do regardless, and finally, how to take all of this to a vet so you walk out with a real answer for your rabbit. So first, what is RHDV? It stands for Rabbit Hemorrhagic Disease Virus, and the strain people mostly talk about now is called RHDV2. Our guide describes it as a calicivirus that attacks the liver and other vital organs. The reason it scares people is the speed. An infected rabbit can die within roughly 12 to 36 hours of showing any symptoms, and some go suddenly with no warning at all. That is a brutal thing to read, and I am not going to pretend otherwise. And the hard part is there is no effective antiviral treatment once a rabbit catches it. So unlike a lot of rabbit health issues where you rush to the vet and they can act, this one is very much about prevention rather than cure. That single fact is really the engine behind the whole vaccine conversation. When there is no cure, the only lever you have is reducing the chance of it ever reaching your rabbit in the first place, and that is why owners start asking about vaccines and biosecurity rather than treatments. I want to say this clearly though, because the speed and the no cure part can tip people into panic, and panic is not useful. There have been no confirmed local outbreaks the way some other countries have had. The point of understanding RHDV is not to lie awake worrying. It is to make a calm, informed choice with your vet, the same way you would think about any other risk. So take a breath. This is a learn about it topic, not a panic about it topic. Now, why are Singapore owners asking about this at all if there have not been local outbreaks? A few reasons, and they are reasonable ones. Our climate is warm and humid all year, generally somewhere in the high 20s to low 30s, with humidity often up around 70 to 90%, and that kind of weather keeps insects active year-round. Insects can act as vectors for this virus, meaning they can carry and spread it, so we do not get the seasonal lull that cooler countries might. In a place that has a real winter, the bug population crashes for a few months and the risk dips with it. Here, there is no off-season. The mosquitoes and flies are just as busy in what passes for our cooler months as they are the rest of the year, so the exposure window never really closes. The second reason is that Singapore is a massive cargo and travel hub. Our guide makes the point that the virus can travel in on animals, on plant material, even on contaminated equipment. So the absence of a confirmed local outbreak does not actually guarantee safety. It just means it has not been recorded here. Those two things together, the year-round vectors and the import exposure, are why thoughtful owners here bring it up rather than assuming it is purely an overseas problem. Okay, so here is the part that is genuinely different in Singapore, and it is the bit that confuses everyone. As of this year, the RHDV2 vaccine is not commercially registered with the authorities for routine sale here. That is the key fact. It is not sitting on a shelf at every clinic the way a dog or cat vaccine might be. So when someone in a group says, just go get your rabbit vaccinated like it is a simple errand, that is not quite how it works here. What actually happens, according to our guide, is that some exotic vet clinics source the vaccine through special import permits. That is legal, but it is inconsistent. Availability varies from clinic to clinic and depends on their import cycle. So the honest picture is that it can be available here, just not in the easy, routine, walk into any clinic way that owners coming from other countries might expect. It is more like a special order than an off-the-shelf product. One clinic might have stock this month and none the next, and another might be expecting a batch in a few weeks. Understanding that one fact will save you a lot of confusion and a lot of arguing in the comments, because half the disagreements you see in the groups come from people in different situations at different times, all assuming their experience is the universal one. So how do owners actually go about it? The practical route our guide describes is to call the exotic animal specialist directly and simply ask whether they currently stock RHDV2 vaccinations. A general dog and cat clinic almost certainly will not carry it, so phoning around the regular neighborhood vets will mostly just frustrate you. You want the exotic and small animal specialist specifically, and because the supply comes in those import cycles, the timing matters. Our guide suggests booking promptly when stock is available, because the cycles are intermittent and stock can come and go. I am deliberately not going to quote you a schedule or talk about doses or how often boosters happen, because that is exactly the kind of thing that should come from your vet for your specific rabbit, not from a video. What the vet decides about timing, about which strains a given vaccine covers, and about whether it suits your rabbit at all, that is their call to make with you in the room. I cannot stress that last bit enough. Whether your particular rabbit should get this and how depends on your rabbit, their age, their health, any existing conditions, where you live, whether you have other rabbits, how often new rabbits come and go in your home, even whether you foster or volunteer around other people's rabbits. All of that feeds into the decision, and none of it can be sorted out in a forum thread by strangers who have never seen your bunny. Two rabbits in two different homes can reasonably end up with two different answers, and both owners can be doing the right thing. So please treat the vaccine question as a conversation to have, not a yes or no you can copy from someone else's bunny. Now here's the genuinely empowering part, and the bit I wish more owners led with. While you are figuring out the vaccine question, there is a whole set of everyday things you can do that reduce risk regardless of whether your rabbit ends up vaccinated. These are the boring practical habits, and they are completely in your hands. Our guide lists a few. Fit mesh screens on your windows, which helps with the insect vector side of things, since a lot of our flats have windows open for airflow, and that is an open door for bugs otherwise. Practice good hand hygiene, washing your hands before and after handling your rabbits, especially if you have been around other animals, been to a pet shop, or been handling other people's rabbits at a meetup. Quarantine any new rabbit for a full 4 weeks before letting it mingle, which is good practice for all sorts of reasons anyway. Wash fresh produce before you feed it, the same greens you would rinse for yourself, and seek prompt exotic vet care for any worrying sudden change like appetite loss, behavior changes, or collapse. None of those habits are dramatic or expensive, and that is the point. They are the quiet groundwork that lowers your risk no matter where you land on the vaccine itself. That quarantine point is worth sitting with for a second, because it does double duty. A 4-week quarantine for any new rabbit protects against far more than just this one virus, and it is one of those habits that quietly prevents a lot of heartbreak. If you bring home a second bunny, resist the urge to introduce them straight away, give it the full 4 weeks, keep their supplies separate, wash up between them, and you are doing real protective work without needing anything from a clinic. I also want to gently clear up a few things that float around the groups, because misinformation is its own little hazard here. One is the idea that you should just wait until there is a local outbreak before bothering to vaccinate. Our guide points out that this does not really work because of how fast the disease moves and how supply here comes in cycles. By the time you are reacting to an outbreak, the calm window to arrange things may have closed. Another myth is that an indoor-only rabbit is completely safe. It is true that staying indoors lowers exposure, and an indoor rabbit really is lower risk than one living outside, but our guide is clear that indoor status does not eliminate the risk because the virus can arrive on produce, on equipment, on your hands, on the soles of your shoes, on things you carry in without thinking about it. Your rabbit may never leave the flat, but the outside world still comes to it. And the third one is assuming any clinic can simply provide it, when, as we covered, it is usually only the exotic specialists who source it, so phoning the nearest dog and cat vet and getting a no does not mean the vaccine does not exist. And the last is thinking it is fine to delay when stock is actually in, when the reality is those cycles are intermittent and a delay can mean missing the window and then waiting weeks or months for the next batch. None of that is meant to push you toward a particular decision. I genuinely do not know what is right for your rabbit, and anyone online who tells you they definitely do without examining your bunny is overreaching. The reason I am laying out the myths is just so you can filter the noise in the groups and come to your vet with clear questions instead of secondhand panic. Feeling commissions, yes, feeling some feeling panic. Fun. First, accept the real picture that the vaccine is not routinely registered here and that availability runs in cycles through exotic clinics. Second, find a rabbit-savvy exotic vet before you have any urgent need, the same way I always bang on about having a vet lined up in advance. Then, when you talk to them, ask the straightforward questions. Do they stock the RHDV2 vaccine, and when do they expect supply? Given your specific rabbit, their age and health, and your household setup, do they think vaccination makes sense? And if so, let them walk you through the protocol and the timing, rather than going off anything you read in a thread, including this video. Your job is to ask good questions and then trust the person who actually examined your rabbit. And whatever you decide on the vaccine, keep doing the everyday stuff in the meantime. The screens, the hand washing, the produce washing, the 4-week quarantine for newcomers, and getting any sudden change seen quickly by an exotic vet. Those habits are protective on their own, they cost you almost nothing, and they are entirely within your control, while the bigger vaccine question gets sorted out with a professional. So that is the RHDV question, minus the panic and minus the 40 contradicting comments. It is a real virus worth understanding. The vaccine situation here is genuinely different from overseas. The decision belongs with a rabbit-savvy vet who has met your rabbit, and there is plenty of simple protective work you can do regardless. If you take one thing from this video, let it be that you do not have to solve this in a comment section, and you do not have to live in fear of it either. You just have to understand it well enough to ask a good vet good questions. Understand it, do not fear it, and take your questions to someone qualified. If you found this useful, come over to singaporerabbit.com. We put out a free weekly digest for Singapore Rabbit owners, and you will find our directories there too, including the vet directory, so you can line up a rabbit-savvy exotic clinic before you ever need one, which is exactly the kind of vet you would be calling about this. It is all free, and it is all made for owners right here. And if you are enjoying these, there is plenty more rabbit content coming, from vet visits to everyday care in our little flats, so subscribe and I will see you in the next one.